Hi everyone, my name is Lisa. I work in communications at Dogwood, and this is a workshop called Persuasion of the Pen, How to Write Letters to Elected Officials. It was recorded on June 3rd in front of a group of volunteers, and now we are making it available for wider distribution. In this workshop, we cover how to write letters to elected officials. So if you want to get in touch with your MP or your MLA about an issue you care about, you're in the right place. Here is an agenda of what we'll be going through in this workshop. Some of the things on here we have cut out, like the check-in and the breakout groups, because it doesn't make much sense if you're just watching it. So today we'll be going through what goes on in an MP and MLA's office. There'll be a group brainstorm about elected officials and what them and their staff care about. We'll talk about the basic structure of how to write a letter that gets noticed. We will clip out some of the breakup group stuff. We'll go through a couple last tidbits of tips and tricks. We're going to talk briefly about a pyramid of engagement, and at the end we've included the answers to some of the questions that were asked through the session. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learn a lot, and I can't wait to see some of the letters to your elected representatives.
My name is Lisa. I work in communications at Dogwood. I have worked here for 4 years. My main responsibilities are I lead the digital communications team, so I'm responsible for creating a lot of the tools that you can access on Dogwood's website to write emails to your officials, or like our click to call tool. I set that up in the background. I also was the lead campaigner for our democracy campaign, Spend Big Money and the Corruption Inquiry, which we did a lot of email your representative, your MLA campaigns through that. Before I worked at Dogwood, I actually worked for a member of parliament for 3 years. So I was the one who was answering your phone calls if you were one of our constituents, reading letters and emails and meeting with constituents about the issues that they care about. So I've experienced on both sides of the fence, and hopefully I'll be able to share some of that knowledge with you today. What goes on in your MP or MLA's office? MPs and MLAs have 2 types of offices. The first one is a legislative office that's located either in Ottawa or Victoria, depending on if they're federal or provincial representatives. In that office, they have 2 types of staffers. A legislative assistant does things like draft bills, motions. They might meet with lobbyists or other stakeholders. They create content for the riding, so sometimes you'll get a mailer from your MP or a calendar. They create that. They work with the caucus. The caucus is the party's representative in legislature. And if that member has a critic portfolio, then they'll do some of the critic work around that. They also have what's called a member's assistant. That person schedules appointments, books flights, accommodation, manages the budget, deals with a lot of logistics. Members also have a constituency office. These offices are located in their home riding. A constituency assistant does things like casework. So they advocate for their constituents or liaison with different government agencies. If they're provincial, they might help with social assistance, persons with disability benefits, WorkSafe, employment standards. If they're federal, they might work with different Service Canada benefits, employment insurance, guaranteed income supplement, old age security, as well as immigration. They make appointments for the member while he's in the riding or she is in the riding. They handle social media in the riding, they plan events, and they answer calls to the constituency office. These roles are quite fluid. So for example, in the office I used to work in, we had 3 constituency assistants and a part-time person in Ottawa. And the constituency assistants took on a lot of the legislative and members assistant roles. And so offices can vary based on who you are talking to. Because we're talking about emails primarily today, I'll give you like a little glimpse into what it looks like. These people are super busy. So on any given day, there's 500 new emails in their inbox. When I worked the office, our voicemail was at about 25 messages every day. We're like incredibly busy people. And because they're the ones screening it, these people are the gatekeepers. So you want to make sure that you appeal to them, you show your issue matters to the community, and you like cut through all of the noise. Those 500 emails, what makes your email stand out or your phone call stand out to these people? Your first line of contact. In addition, a member might also have a ministerial portfolio that is not managed by these offices. They have a separate ministerial office for those. These people do a lot. What does your MLA and MP actually do? Well, it depends on the MP or MLA themselves. Some of them are very hands-on. They want to take a lot of action. They want to like fine-tune a lot of the details. They are doing constituent casework themselves. They're meeting with constituents. They're helping with drafting emails. I know one MP I worked with in Ottawa would often send emails back from his legislative assistance account. Some of them are like very hands-on, and some of them, they're happy just to let their staff take care of it. But at the very minimum, they're attending events. They're answering emails to their constituents or to their staff, answering phone calls, making phone calls, attending meetings, sitting in the House, writing and giving speeches. And on top of that, they're balancing a lot of priorities. So they're away from their families a lot. If they're from BC, they're flying to Ottawa, or other parts of BC, they're flying to Victoria. And they have a lot of events in Victoria, Ottawa, as well as their constituency. So they're trying to balance like their personal time and their professional time, balancing re-election efforts and things with the party, with their MP and MLA independent responsibilities, and some of them may have ministerial responsibilities on top of that. As an example, the MP I used to work for was a representative of Surrey. So his weekly schedule looks like at 2 p.m. on Sunday, he would fly to Ottawa and get in quite late. On Monday morning, he would wake up and go into the legislative office, meet with stakeholders, go to caucus meetings, sit in the House, write speeches. In the evenings, he would go to events thrown by different stakeholders and meetings with other members or with ministers. And then he would fly back on Thursday night to BC, meet with constituents all day Friday, and then attend events Saturday and Sunday. So they're incredibly busy people, even the ones that are like largely hands off. So it's really important that we are able to like cut through and make sure that our issue resonates with them and that they're actually hearing what we're saying. So to do that, we need to tap in, what do they actually care about? So in the chat, I'm going to ask you to put in some ideas about what do members of parliament and MLAs actually care about. What do their staff care about? What do they want? What do they need? I do see that people are putting questions in the chat, and that's great. I'm writing them down so we won't lose them, and I'll come back to them at the end. So for now, using the chat function, what do MLAs and MPs really care about? Re-election, yeah. Staying popular and getting reelected. Yeah, some of them care about issues like climate change, environment, health assistance, local issues. Yeah, they have an eye to their popularity, that's for sure. Lobbyists and financial contributions, making a good impression, sounding smart, sounding caring, issues that are close to their heart. And somebody suggests looking into their background, how much clout you have. That could be within the community, within the party, keeping on the good side of the party leader, yes. They want to look competent. Somebody has pointed out it depends on the person and the party, and that is totally true. How many voices you represent. Somebody talks about in their riding, their representative might care about people who have high income, leadership races, and some have different altruistic motivations than others. learning their role. That's a really good point. It takes a little bit of time when they were just regular people yesterday and all of a sudden they have a different job. Responding to certain lobbyists, and they don't want to waste their time. They're all really good points. All right. Here's some things I came up with. Why aren't you changing? Considering all the things we just talked about, their priorities are a lot of the things you just mentioned. So championing issues. These could be personal issues. They could be their critic issues or their minister issues. They could be the community's issues. A lot of them got into politics for a reason. They wanted to make a change in some way. So yeah, definitely championing issues was mentioned. Standing up for their community, helping their friends, which may also be their community, may also not. Advocating for and pleasing constituents. These last three points might be related to getting votes, related to re-election, also might be related to like caring about the community you come from. Depends on the MP and MLA for sure. Following the party line, so keeping the party on brand, keeping message, helping with the party's re-election efforts, promotion within the caucus, getting a higher ministerial profile or a critic profile, getting close to the leader, as somebody said. Getting reelected, which I think relates to a lot of these. They want to keep their jobs. So related to that, getting votes, getting publicity, getting positive press, social media, earned media, fundraising, volunteers. And they might want some like family time and relaxation. They're regular people as well, and they have very busy lives, like we all do. So considering all of this, what kind of things will you want to highlight in your letter to make sure it actually cuts through all the noise of all those emails, all those voicemails they get, and meets your elected officials' priorities and gets their attention? The first thing you'll want to include is what riding you're in. So this is important because there are many people across the country that email every single MP in their list, even if the issue doesn't resonate with their community or they're not from their community. So your MP or MLA wants to know that you actually live in their riding, you actually are a voter and you're in sync with the needs of the riding. Whether you volunteered, donated, or voted for them. This is an important point to include because it like triggers that re-election thing that's always in the back of their head, but you want to be really light with it. Especially with MLAs, they're under like a sharper microscope with their partisanship. So if you volunteered, donated, voted for them, even if you met them at a barbecue last week, feel free to mention that, but don't lean on it to make them feel uncomfortable or like you might be like asking for special favor. Why the issue that you're writing about is important to you or your community. And why the issue is important now. So if you have been volunteering with Dogwood before or for a long time, these two last points might look familiar. They're storytelling. So storytelling is incredibly important. It's like the most important thing you can add to a letter. Facts and figures for sure are important, but they aren't memorable. Politicians have people who are paid to research, to provide them with research and facts, laws. They have those people already. What they actually need are real humans in their community with real stories about how an issue impacts them. It attracts media, it attracts attention, it attracts, I guess, more attention within the caucus, and it's in your mind. So they really do need these, like, the fat of the letter, which is you, and you fill that niche in their work. So remember your story of self, your story of us, and your story of now. Is this concept familiar to people? See some head nods. Awesome. If it's not, we're going to practice. All right. And finally, follow-up plan. Tell them what you will do after you've sent this email. what you want them to do, and when you will follow up. It gives them accountability, and it tells them that you actually care about this issue. So, basic structure of a letter. What riding are you in? Your relationship with them and their campaign and their riding, whether you volunteered, donated, voted, met them before. Your story of self, us, and now, why it's important to you, your community, and why that issue is important now and why it's important they act now, and your follow-up plan. All right, last little pieces of advice. Check for grammar and spelling. I typically don't care that much about grammar and spelling, but you do want to make sure they understand your message, and you do want to make sure you're not distracting from your issue and your story. So if you have blatant grammar or blatant spelling mistakes, it does distract the person and it can undermine your credibility. Find the correct title of the person you are writing to. They aren't all honorable. If they're a minister, they might be honorable, maybe. Well, you could call them honorable. If you are in doubt, use MP last name or MLA last name. So MLA, Ma, MP, MP just left Van Popta, that's mine. All the MPs just left my mind. And finally, oh, sorry, make sure all your facts are correct and up to date. I did say don't include a lot of facts. Please do include your story foremost. But if you do include facts, make sure they are recent and they are correct, because you don't want your MP or MLA to go into the house and spit a bunch of facts out that aren't true. And also pay attention to the source of where you get those facts, because believe it or not, some news outlets are biased. And actually do the follow-up you say you're going to. It shows that you care about it. It shows you care about the issue. And also it shows that you're going to remember this in the next election. So when they always have that re-election bug in the back of their minds, they know that you're going to remember this because you remembered to actually follow up with them like you said you were going to. Finally, I just wanted to talk real quick about the pyramid of engagement. In short, how much effort you put in directly corresponds with how much an MP or an MLA pays attention to you. So at the bottom of your pyramid, you'll see sending a form letter, then sending a personal letter, making a phone call, or visiting their office. These are varying levels of effort, and they get like a direct correspondence or correlation with how much attention your MP or MLA will pay to your issue. Does that mean that sending a form letter or sending a personal letter is a waste of time? No. The more letters you send, the more impact they'll make. So if you send a letter to your MP and they get 50 letters that say the same thing, they'll know that issue resonates in their community. They go into their caucus meetings where their caucus decides priorities for legislation or for their next platform. And a couple other MPs also got 50 letters. That's a huge statement that starts a conversation in caucus and actually makes change. So when you write a letter, bring a friend along with you and make them write a letter as well. And as I said before, if you are making calls or visiting the same structure, you can use the same structure that we talked about today as conversation. I do have a real life practice example that you can use to actually write your MP. I'm going to put it in the chat and we'll probably send it around after.
Yeah, can I jump in with a couple announcements at the end?
Yes. Go ahead, I am finished.
Okay.
And then I'll stay on and answer a couple of the questions from the chat.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming. We're gonna hopefully do more of these, so just stay tuned on our Dogwood organizing events page. We'll probably do an event on letters to the editor to make it more focused for getting published in newspapers. And I wrote in the chat, you can join our Facebook group if you use Facebook, our Facebook writers group, so you can share. Let's just start sharing our letters and sharing our knowledge and our stories there. Or we're also we have an organizing hub, it's new, so there's a link also there. You can make your own profile and a recruiting link to recruit your friends to come to our events or to just sign up to volunteer in general. And there probably will be an opportunity for people to post their stories and their letters on the hub as well. So stay tuned and follow those pages for now, and invite your friends to the next one.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Good luck with your letters. If you want to stick around for a question period, you are welcome to. Otherwise, you're welcome to email me at lisa@dogwoodbc.ca, and I can answer your questions that way. And in the chat, I just put a link to a real-life petition that you can go and send your letter through. Some of the questions we got through the chat that I will start answering. Does it work to directly threaten to not vote for the MLA or MP if they don't do what's requested? Sometimes. The MPs and MLAs know that you vote a certain way for many different reasons. So you might not like that person personally, but you might like their party or their leader, and that could influence your vote. You might want to vote strategically in the next election to keep a certain political party out, keep them in. So I think it does work if the riding, it could work if the riding was close in the last election, if it's a swing riding where it goes back and forth between parties each election. So if they're feeling like kind of threatening about their jobs, and if they know like in some ridings, like, 25 votes can make a difference, then it might work. Otherwise, it might not, but I don't want to tell you not to include it because I think it's a fun strategy. So, and be serious about it. If this is a voting issue for you, there are many voting issues for me, then tell them that. Another question, what's the best way to structure an opening sentence? Keep it simple. My name is Lisa Sammartino, and I am a constituent in your riding of Langley East, and I care about Trans Mountain. I voted for you in the last election, and I hope that you will stand up for me as I thought you would when I voted for you. This is not very eloquent, but identify that you live in their riding, say your name, and what the email is going to be about. And then go into your story. How much time do MPs and MLAs spend fundraising? This is a hard question to answer because fundraising and campaigning happen like all the time and also none of the time officially. So technically when they are on their like MLA or MP clock, they are not allowed to do campaigning. The MLAs aren't even allowed to like use the same colors as their parties. But at the same time, they're like always going to events and always, having barbecues and having these conversations with potential funders or people who have been donors in the past. So yeah, it's hard to put a number on, but the answer is like all of the time and also none of the time. And some of them have people who do that for them on their campaigns, somebody who's well connected to the community and is good at asking for money, because that is a skill that not everybody has. How to write to a senator? This is an excellent question because senators are not elected, but they still are people who care about certain things. And so what I would say is find the senators that represent your province or a senator that has championed your issue in the past. So that's like a good way to connect with them. Like, hey, I live in BC. You also might live in BC because sometimes they don't actually live with the province they represent. Or like, hey, you've talked about, climate change in the past. I also care about this issue. But I would say with senators especially, it's even more important to use your story because that helps them connect with you like as a person, and they can kind of see the impact of their work. Senators are definitely a tricky one. The thing about legislation is it has to go through both houses, so both the Senate and the House of Commons. So that gives you an opportunity, if you can't reach out to your senator, to connect with your MP as well. Other questions that you might have? We can open it up or you can write it in the chat, whatever you prefer.
What if you have the impression that your questions are being screened out?
Or by the MP or by me right now?
Oh, sorry, no, not by you right now. No,
I probably just didn't see it.
By the assistant in the office.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
I think that like try to get a meeting with the MP or MLA directly, if you
Yeah,
can.
I have not been able to, and the one that we did have set up for Dogwood was canceled 2 hours before the meeting. I also accidentally received an email of the office assistant saying that she had blown me off.
No.
Yeah, she meant to send it to the MP, but accidentally sent it to me.
Oh my gosh, that's
So
I would say like Twitter shame a little bit if you're on Twitter. But yeah, I think it's fair to be like, this is not okay. I'm a constituent of your riding. Who is that? Who is the representative?
Carla Qualtro.
Okay, yeah. And that was about a Dogwood thing or something else?
No, I think it was about money laundering and a public inquiry at that time.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the assistant's name was Julie.
Next time because I feel like that the public inquiry is like wrapped up a little bit. Not wrapped up, but it's underway is what I mean.
Underway,
yeah, our campaign has wrapped up. But next time you reach out, we should talk about a strategy around that. Because we might be able to have a little fun with that. But yeah.
Okay, once I have my letter written, then we'll figure out how to get it where it needs to be.
I mean, and then the other thing is like sometimes your MP or MLA just shuts you out, and then you can maybe connect with somebody in the media, write a letter to the editor, or do some like Twitter or Facebook shaming. The reality is this happens in the States all the time because Donald Trump blocks people on Twitter, but the reality is you are a constituent and you deserve to hear your voice heard, like your voice deserves to be heard. Robin. Sorry, Amy, then Robin.
My bind is that Delta goes either liberal or conservative, but mostly conservative. So I can't launch into Twitter shaming my liberal MP, otherwise we'll end up with a conservative.
Yeah, it's that those strategic voting things are hard. For sure. I mean, part of it is like you could pretend you vote conservative and maybe that would tame them a bit. But yeah, let's talk about a strategy when we get to there. You can email me at lisa@dogwoodbc.ca and we can talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Robin.
How about sending a copy of the blow-off letter back to the assistant saying, thank you for your very kind response. However, I do think ...
I did do that. I said, okay, well, I guess I'll see you at the Christmas party.
Actually, that brings up a really good point. Go to the events to connect with your member. They hold those things for a reason, and they hold them, especially like provincial representatives, which Carlo Quattro isn't. But provincial representatives are gonna be like ramping that up as soon as some of the social distancing stuff is closed because they have an election year coming up. Any other questions? Dogwood's really good at cornering elected officials at Christmas parties. So if you need help with that.
How do we do that though on with the COVID-19? They're not having these events, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're probably designing a strategy around that for their outreach because they need to talk to as many voters as they can in the next year. So I imagine we'll see some more like, Twitter town halls, telephone town halls, maybe Zoom meetings, things like that, which is actually like a good opportunity because then we can like, crowdsource a lot of questions related to the issue and just kind of, they call it like mob the miking at town halls, but like try to get your issue at the forefront.
Right.
I mean, everything is topsy-turvy. We're all trying to adapt, but there's a lot of opportunities, I think, right now for advocacy as well. Any other questions or comments or feedback? Robin put connect to the Riding Association. If you are like a supporter or a volunteer or donor, that's another way to get to your elected representative. So the Riding Association is the people who campaign within the riding.
But it'll get you a connection anyway. Whether you decide to support them or not, it'll get you a connection anyway.
Totally.
And riding associations hopefully meet more frequently than you can meet with the MLA or MP.
Yeah, the one I worked for did not, but that's okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm off.
No problem.
Thank you, Abby.
Lena, writing on behalf of Dogwood versus a personal account, what are the pros and cons?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Good question.
You're welcome to say that you are like a supporter or a member of Dogwood. Absolutely. I think it shows a source of power because there are 500,000 of Dogwood supporters in the province. So I think that's a really good strategy. But I still would say go back to your personal story of self, just because that sticks in the mind more. And you work in the film industry, so you know the power of stories. So yeah, the cons are, if you're writing to a conservative or a BC Liberal, I would say do not mention that. Somebody I think lives in Andrew Wilkinson's writing, don't mention it there. But if it's somebody that has a lot of respect for Dogwood, possibly somebody like Jagmeet Singh, some of the Green members, some of the NDP members, I think Terry Beach possibly as well, depending on the moment. I think it's fair to use that if it's a positive thing. If it's not going to be a negative relationship, then they'll probably just close your email. So it depends. And if you don't know, just ask me or Abby, hey, I'm going to write to this person, or I'm going to meet with this person. Should I mention that I'm involved with Dogwood? And we'll be able to tell you. How much value? Sorry, I do. Does that send a lot of form? Robin, you want to speak about that? Sorry.
Rather than typing, let me just say it.
Please.
I do a lot of form letters, from Sierra Club and all the rest of it. And sometimes they say, do you want to add your own info, your own thing? How much value is there to actually adding that own info?
I think it adds a lot of value if you're able to put your story of self forward. Usually they do that for ease because Dogwood does a lot of form letters as well, because we want volume, or because there might be specific details, maybe something we want a piece of legislation to include that's legalese, or specific statistic details that we want to make sure are accurate. But I think adding a personal note is a really good idea. Yeah, especially if you're going to follow up, because then you can say hey, I told you this story. Yeah, would encourage that. Also, I think and I'm not sure about MP or MLA email servers, but some email servers, if they see a lot of the exact same letters coming in, will start to spam them. And so I think if you're able to add your own personal little note, maybe it'll jump that a little bit and get you actually in the inbox.
Can I add something about the form letter thing? I had a great result with it was to do with bottled water, and I added a very strongly worded message at the top of the letter from Freshwater Alliance, and within 48 hours there was a public Facebook announcement from the mayor and the city councillor Dylan Kruger on it.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, it was immediate. So adding your own personalized, really strongly worded thing, I think is very effective.
Did you give that feedback to Freshwater Alliance? That you had gotten a good response?
I don't know. I could dig for it and do that.
I think they. If you get a really cool response, let us know if you're doing it on one of our campaigns. We'd love to hear that. Sorry, my baby is crying. I've read that such form letters don't have much impact. I sign them, but without hope of effectiveness. What do you think in general? Yeah, this goes back to our pyramid of engagement. Form letters, they know that you can tell a form letter even if you only receive one of them. They're written in a very specific way. They're impersonal. They include a lot of facts and figures. So you can definitely tell what those are, and I think they take them with like a grain of salt, less than a grain of salt. However, if there are lots of them, that shows interest in the community. So it's similar to signing a petition. You know, you have 1,000 petition signatures, 1,000 form letters. It does get attention, definitely more than a petition signature because it's landing in front of them. But the more personalized you can do, the better. Catherine.
My son-in-law used to work for the Alberta government. He was in Alberta Parks, and they had a formula that they used for things like that. So I don't remember what the ratios were, but they actually had a count. So they gave points for like a form letter would get 1 point, but a personal letter would get 25 points. And, you know, like, that hierarchy is actually, it's quantifiable.
Okay.
Yeah, for a lot of places it is, for sure. Dogwood does a similar thing with our like ladder of engagement. So like petition signature, you get like a level 1 engagement. Whereas if you write a form letter, you get a level 2. And if you write a personal letter, you get a level 3 or make a phone call. So it's similar. And I think even if that's not, yes, I agree. Like I think lots of institutions probably have that quite formalized, but even if it's not, there's like that, there's a thought of an ladder of engagement maybe. Sending a postcard. Do a lot of people do that? So Dogwood has done postcard drives in the past. They were kind of fun. People really like doing them. I mean, mailing a letter, dropping off a letter does have like a higher level of effort, so gets a higher level of attention for sure. And you can mail your MP for free. You just don't even have to stamp, you just put it in the mail and it'll get there. So yeah, not a lot of people do it, so it would get attention. That being said, a postcard is like similar to a form letter. So unless you're like writing your own thing, I think in the past we've done like typed out things where you just sign your name. Yeah, so yes, and there's downsides as well, depending on what you put on it. So, kind of fun though. We're gonna do one more question and then I'm gonna wrap up because there's like crying. Robin.
Somebody's cat was looking for treats.
Any other questions? Great. All right. Thank you all so much. I am available by email if you need me, lisa@dogwoodbc.ca.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Everybody.
Yes, thanks a
for
lot,
being here.
Lisa. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lisa and Abby.
Yep. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, Lisa. Bye, guys.